We're busy that weekend, Valerie. Maybe next month. My mother's voice came through the phone with that same dismissive tone I'd heard my entire life. I stood in my brand new apartment in Portland, Oregon, staring out at the skyline I'd spent 8 long years working to afford, and felt my chest tighten. "But Mom," I said softly, "I just bought my first place. I wanted everyone to see it, even for a few hours. Your father has a golf tournament, and your sister Bethany has a showing with an important client. You know how real estate is. We'll come by once things calm down." But things never calmed down. Not for them. Not when it came to me. My name is Valerie. I'm 35 years old and a nurse at Providence Portland Medical Center. For the past 8 years, I've worked double shifts, covered holidays, filled in for coworkers, and saved every dollar I could. I lived in a tiny studio with paper-thin walls where I could hear my neighbor's TV all night. I drove a 15-year-old sedan that broke down more often than it ran. I wore the same scrubs patched 3 times over and ate ramen noodles more nights than I'd like to admit. But I made it. I finally did it. Last week, I closed on a beautiful 1-bedroom apartment on the 14th floor, with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city. It wasn't a mansion, but it was mine. Entirely mine. No landlord, no mold in the bathroom, no upstairs neighbor stomping around at 2 a.m. Just my own space with hardwood floors, a real kitchen, and that breathtaking view. I called everyone. My parents, my sister Bethany, my brother Trevor, even my cousin Janine, who I barely talk to anymore. I planned a small housewarming for Saturday afternoon. Nothing elaborate, just appetizers, drinks, and a chance to show my family what I'd accomplished. One by one, they all declined. "I've got a work thing," Trevor said. "That's the weekend of the charity auction I'm organizing," Janine claimed, even though she'd never mentioned any auction before. Bethany, of course, was the worst. She laughed when I told her about the apartment. "You bought in that building, Valerie? Seriously? That area isn't even trendy. I could have helped you find something with real investment potential." That was just like her. Ever since becoming a real estate agent 5 years ago, Bethany acted like an expert on everything. Never mind that I'd spent months researching, touring open houses, and crunching numbers to find what I could truly afford. Never mind that this apartment was perfect for me. Bethany always had opinions, and she never kept them to herself. After hanging up with my mother, I set my phone on the cool granite countertop. I glanced around at the boxes waiting to be unpacked, the blank walls ready for photos, the space that should have felt like a dream come true, but instead felt hollow. It wasn't new. It was the same pattern my whole life. Growing up, I was always the invisible one. Bethany was the golden daughter, perfect grades, perfect friends, perfect everything. Trevor was the athletic son, the one my dad bragged about at every barbecue. And me, I was just Valerie, the middle child who worked hard but never quite measured up. When I graduated nursing school, my parents threw Bethany a huge party for getting her real estate license. That same month, my graduation celebration was dinner at a chain restaurant with a $50 gift card. When I landed my first nursing job, Trevor got engaged, and suddenly that was all anyone talked about for months. When I finally paid off my student loans last year, Bethany bought a new car, and Mom spent 3 weeks showing everyone pictures of it. I kept telling myself it didn't matter, that I was doing this for me, not for their approval. But standing in my empty apartment that Saturday, I finally admitted how much I had wanted them to care. Just once. Just for one afternoon. I spent the weekend alone, unpacking boxes and setting up furniture. I hung curtains, assembled a bookshelf, and neatly arranged my small closet, folding my clothes with a care I'd never shown before. This was my home now. Truly mine. On Sunday evening, as the sun dipped behind Portland's skyline, I stood by the window and watched the city lights flicker on. The view was breathtaking, buildings glowing against the fading sky stretching all the way to the river. I snapped one photo, a single image of that perfect scene, and posted it on social media with a simple caption, "Finally home, no tags." No extra details. Just that photo. I set my phone aside. Within an hour, the notifications began. My phone buzzed again and again, comments, messages, calls, all from my family. I looked at the screen, then back at the glowing city. For 8 years, I had worked myself to exhaustion. For 8 years, I had heard every excuse about why they were too busy, too important, too wrapped up in their own lives to be part of mine. I silenced my phone and walked away. Let them wait. The calls continued through the night. By Monday morning, I had 17 missed calls from my mother, 12 from Bethany, 8 from Trevor, and even 3 from my father, who almost never called. Dozens of text messages had piled up, each more urgent than the last. I ignored them all and went to work. The hospital was hectic that day, which was exactly what I needed. I took vitals, gave medications, calmed anxious patients, all the things that reminded me I was good at my job. During lunch, I finally checked my phone. The messages almost made me laugh. My mother's first text was casual. Saw your post. Call me when you can. An hour later, Valerie, please call. We need to talk about your apartment. By midnight, this is ridiculous. Pick up your phone. Bethany's messages followed the same pattern, though hers carried a tone of professional curiosity. Is that the Westview building? I didn't know you were looking at high-rises. Call me. I have questions. Trevor's texts were shorter but constant. Nice view. Then, seriously, call Mom. Then, what floor are you on? I tucked my phone away and finished my shift. That evening, I stopped by a furniture store and bought a real couch. Not the secondhand futon I'd been sleeping on for years. The salesman was kind, and I found myself talking about my new apartment, the view, the effort it took to get here. He congratulated me sincerely, and for a moment, I felt proud. When I got home, there was a voicemail from my mother. Valerie, I don't understand why you're not answering. Your father and I have been talking, and we'd love to come see your new place. Maybe this weekend. Call me back. I deleted it. The truth was, my family had never really understood my life. They didn't know about the double shifts or the extra hours I picked up on holidays just to save an extra couple $100s each month. They didn't know I had worked through Christmas, New Year's, and Thanksgiving 5 years in a row. They didn't know what 60-hour weeks felt like, the kind of exhaustion that seeps into your bones. They never asked. My parents lived comfortably in the same suburban house I grew up in. My father ran a small accounting firm, and my mother volunteered at the country club. They were always busy, organizing, attending, networking, but only with things that mattered to them. Bethany had built what she called a successful real estate career. She sold expensive homes, posted photos holding oversized checks, drove a luxury car, wore designer clothes, and constantly talked about her clients, open houses, and networking events. Trevor worked in sales for a pharmaceutical company. He traveled often, earned a good income, and spent most of it on his hobbies. He owned a boat he took out twice a year and a motorcycle he liked to show off at family gatherings. And then there was me, the nurse. The one with the sensible job and the practical life. The one no one ever worried about because I was dependable, steady, and, in their eyes, boring. When I was younger, I tried everything to get their attention. I joined school clubs, volunteered, and kept my grades high. But it never mattered. Bethany was always prettier, more charming, more engaging. Trevor was the fun one. Athletic, social, everyone's favorite. I was just there. A quiet figure fading into the background of our family photos. By the time I entered nursing school, I had stopped trying. I focused on my studies, on building a stable career, and on taking care of myself, because no one else would. I told myself that was enough. But deep down, it wasn't. I still wanted to be seen, to be acknowledged. I wanted them to notice my hard work, to see that I was building a life worth being proud of. That's why I invited them to my apartment. That's why it stung so deeply when they all said no. It was a Wednesday afternoon when my mother showed up at the hospital. I was at the nurse's station updating patient charts when I heard her voice at the front desk. I'm looking for my daughter, Valerie. She's a nurse here. My stomach dropped. For a moment, I considered slipping into a supply closet. But my charge nurse had already spotted me and waved her over. There she is, she said cheerfully. My mother walked toward me with that familiar, determined expression she wore when she wanted something. She was dressed, as always, in her perfectly coordinated outfit, tasteful jewelry, flawless hair. She smiled at me like everything was normal. Valerie, honey. I was in the neighborhood and thought I'd stop by. She was never in the neighborhood. The hospital was half an hour from her house. I'm working, Mom, I said. I know. Sweetheart, she replied with a light laugh, brushing off my tone. But we've been trying to reach you. Why haven't you called us back? I've been busy, I answered. Busy? We're all busy, darling. But family is important. Your father and I would really love to see your new apartment. How about this weekend? I looked at her. standing there in the middle of my workplace, asking for the very thing she had refused when I asked first. The thing I had wanted so badly just days ago. "This weekend doesn't work for me," I said flatly. Her smile faltered. "Oh, well, when would be good?" "I'll let you know." I turned back to my computer. A moment later, I heard her footsteps fade down the hallway. But my mother wasn't the only one who wouldn't give up. Over the next week, my entire family launched what felt like a coordinated campaign to get an invitation to my apartment. Bethany began texting me unsolicited real estate advice. "You should refinish your floors, it adds value. I know someone who can help. Have you thought about resale potential? Location is everything." Trevor started sending links to furniture stores and home decor websites. "Thought you might like these for your new place." Even my father, who normally called maybe twice a year, suddenly began phoning every other day. "Your mother's worried about you. Just give her a call." And then there was Janine, my cousin, reaching out with suspicious enthusiasm. "I saw your post. The apartment looks amazing. I'd love to see it in person. Are you free next weekend?" They were all so transparent, and none of them acknowledged the real issue. Not one mentioned how they had all turned me down before. No apologies, no recognition of how that felt. They just wanted access now that it was convenient for them, now that it seemed worth their attention. I kept ignoring them. At work, my colleague Denise noticed something was off. We were restocking supplies when she asked, "You okay? You seem distracted." Denise was one of the few who knew about my family. We'd worked together for 6 years, and through countless night shifts, I had told her enough to understand the pattern. "My family won't stop calling me," I said. "About the apartment?" "Yeah, they all said no when I invited them. Now they won't leave me alone." Denise sighed and shook her head. "Let me guess. They saw your social media post?" I nodded. That's all it takes. One picture, and suddenly everyone's interested. "So what are you going to do?" she asked. It was the same question I'd been asking myself. A part of me wanted to give in. Let them come over, get it over with, and move on. But a bigger part of me was feeling something I hadn't let myself feel before. Anger. Deep, simmering anger. At years of being dismissed and overlooked. "I don't know yet," I told Denise. "But I'm not ready to just forgive and move on." "Good," she said firmly. "Don't let them off the hook that easily." That Saturday, I had the day off. I spent the morning organizing my bookshelf and hanging up photos. My apartment was finally coming together. Every corner reflected my taste, my effort, my independence. It felt good. Around noon, the doorbell rang. I wasn't expecting anyone. I peeked through the peephole, and my chest tightened. Bethany stood there, holding a bottle of wine and wearing her signature professional smile. For a second, I thought about not answering, but she rang again. I opened the door but didn't step aside. "Surprise!" Bethany said cheerfully. "I was showing a property nearby and thought I'd stop in." "How did you even get my address?" "Mom gave it to me." "Can I come in?" "I brought wine." "I didn't invite you," I said flatly. Her smile faltered. "Valerie, come on. Don't be like this. I just want to see your new place. Mom said you've been avoiding everyone." "I wonder why," I muttered. "Look, I'm sorry I couldn't make it to your housewarming," she added. "I really did have a client meeting. But I'm here now. Can't we just move past this?" There it was. The casual dismissal of my feelings disguised as an apology. "No," I said firmly. "You didn't want to come when it mattered to me. So I don't care that you want to now." Bethany's polished expression cracked. "Are you seriously holding a grudge over this?" "It's just an apartment, Valerie. It's not that big of a deal." "Exactly," I said. "It's just an apartment, so you won't mind not seeing it." I started to close the door, but she pressed her hand against it. "Wait, just wait," she said. "I know we haven't always been close, but we're sisters. Can't we at least try?" I looked at her, standing there in her expensive blazer with her expensive wine, and wondered if she had any idea what she was asking. She wanted me to open the door, literally and emotionally, without ever acknowledging the years of being second place. Without admitting that she'd always seen me as less important, less interesting, less worth her time. "You know something?" I said quietly. "I worked 8 years for this apartment, 8 years of double shifts, holidays, and exhaustion. And when I finally got it, the first thing I wanted was to share it with my family. That's all. Just a few hours of your time to celebrate something I was proud of." "I said I'm sorry," she replied. No, I said. You said you had a client meeting. That's not the same thing, Bethany's tone hardened. Fine, be petty, but don't come crying to us when you need something. I haven't needed you in years, I said. I'll be fine. I closed the door. My hands trembled. I walked over to the window and looked out at the city view that had started all of this. Buildings, streets, lives moving forward, all indifferent to my family drama. Then my phone buzzed. A message from Mom. Bethany told me what happened. This is unacceptable. You need to apologize to your sister. I stared at the screen for a long moment. Then I blocked her number. I blocked Bethany's. I blocked Trevor's. I even blocked my father's. Then I set my phone down and felt something shift inside me. For 35 years, I had waited for my family to see me, to value me, to make me feel like I mattered. They never did. Maybe it was time to stop waiting. Maybe it was time to build a life where I didn't need their approval at all. The silence that followed was both terrifying and freeing. For the first couple of days, I kept checking my phone, half expecting an emergency, something that would force me to respond. But nothing came. Just peaceful, uninterrupted silence. Work became my refuge again. I started picking up extra shifts, not for the money, but for the distraction. The hospital was the one place where I felt competent, needed, and respected. Patients didn't care about family drama. They just needed someone who showed up and did the job right. Then, during a long Thursday shift, everything began to unravel in ways I hadn't expected. I was checking on a patient in room 312 when I heard familiar voices at the nurse's station. My stomach dropped before my mind even caught up. My mother and Bethany were talking to the charge nurse. I stepped back into the room, hoping they hadn't seen me. Through the half-open door, I could hear them talking. We're very worried about her, my mother said in that carefully concerned tone she used when fishing for sympathy. She's been acting strange, blocking our calls. We just want to make sure she's okay. I can have someone check if she's available, the charge nurse offered. No, we'll wait, Mom said. We brought her favorite lunch. She's been working so hard, my favorite lunch? They didn't even know what that was. I hadn't eaten with them in months, maybe longer. I stayed in that room for 20 minutes pretending to check IV lines and monitor readings. When I finally stepped out, they were still there, sitting in the waiting area with a bag from some fancy deli I'd never even heard of. I had two choices: hide until they left or face them head on. I chose confrontation. What are you doing here? I asked, keeping my voice low. We were still in a hospital after all. Mom jumped up immediately, her face bright with fake relief. Valerie, there you are! We've been so worried. You blocked our numbers. Yes, I did. Why would you do that? We're your family. You came to my workplace, I said evenly. That's not appropriate. Bethany stood up, her face caught somewhere between irritation and embarrassment. A few other staff members were now watching, and it was clear she didn't appreciate the attention. Just wanted to talk to you, she said. You won't answer our calls or texts, because I don't want to talk to you. My mother reached for my arm, but I stepped back. Valerie, please, let's be reasonable about this. Whatever we did to upset you, we can fix it. Just talk to us. You want to know what you did? I asked, my voice rising despite my effort to stay calm. You dismissed me, all of you. You couldn't take one afternoon to visit my apartment when I invited you. But now that you've seen it's actually nice, you won't leave me alone. You don't get to decide when I'm worth your time. We've apologized for that, Bethany replied, her real estate agent tone turning condescending. How many times do we have to say we're sorry? You're being childish? Childish? I repeated. I'm being childish? Yes, she said firmly. You're throwing a tantrum because we were busy one weekend. Grow up, the charge nurse stepped forward, clearly uneasy with the scene unfolding in the middle of the floor. Maybe this conversation should happen somewhere private, she suggested. My mother ignored her. Valerie, we love you. We want to be part of your life, but you have to meet us halfway. We made a mistake and we're trying to make it right. What more do you want? The question hung heavy between us. What did I want? I wanted them to have shown up when I asked. To have cared about my achievements without needing social media to tell them they mattered. I wanted 35 years of being invisible to count for something. But I couldn't say any of that. Not here, not now, not in front of my coworkers and patients. I want you to leave, I said quietly. I'm at work. This is unprofessional and you're putting me in a difficult position. We're not leaving until you agree to talk to us properly, my mother said, her tone firm beneath the polite exterior. We'll wait as long as it takes. The charge nurse touched my shoulder gently. Valerie, why don't you take your break? Use the conference room, 10 minutes. It wasn't really a suggestion. She was trying to help me de-escalate the situation before it worsened. But I felt trapped. I couldn't make a bigger scene, and I couldn't let them sit in the waiting area all day. Fine, I said. 10 minutes. We walked to the small conference room in silence. My mother and Bethany sat down as if this were some pleasant family meeting. I stayed standing. Talk, I said. My mother pulled out a chair for me. Sit down, honey. You've been on your feet all day. I'm fine standing. You have 10 minutes, Bethany sighed dramatically. This is ridiculous. We're here because we care about you, and you're treating us like we're the enemy. You showed up at my job and ambushed me. We had to, my mother said. You blocked us. What else were we supposed to do? Respect my decision. Your decision to cut off your entire family? Bethany leaned forward. Over what? Because we were busy one weekend? Do you even hear yourself? My fists clenched. It's not about one weekend. It's about every weekend, every graduation, every accomplishment, every time I needed you and you weren't there. That's not fair, my mother said. We've always been there for you. No, you haven't. You've been there for Bethany's open houses, Trevor's golf tournaments, and Dad's office parties. But when I graduated nursing school, you threw me a dinner at a chain restaurant. When I paid off my student loans, nobody even said congratulations. We did say congratulations, Bethany interrupted. Did you? Because I don't remember. My mother's face flushed as she struggled to hold her composure. We did our best with all three of you. If you felt neglected, I'm sorry. But you need to understand, we had limited time and resources. We made the best choices we could. You chose them over me every time. That's not true. Then prove it, I said, even though I knew it was a mistake. Tell me one thing about my life right now. One thing that matters to me. What I care about, what I do when I'm not at work. Tell me anything that shows you actually know me. The silence that followed was unbearable. My mother opened her mouth, then closed it, looking to Bethany for help. Bethany shrugged. You work at the hospital. You just bought an apartment. That's it? That's all you know about me? Well, you're not exactly an open book, Bethany said defensively. You never share anything with us. Because you never ask. My mother stood abruptly, her voice tight. This isn't productive. We came to reconcile, not to be attacked. I'm not attacking you. I'm telling you the truth. Your truth, she corrected. Your version of events. There are 3 sides to every story, Valerie. Then tell me yours. But she didn't. She just picked up her purse and glanced at Bethany. We should go. She's clearly not ready to have a rational conversation. They walked out, leaving the expensive deli bag sitting untouched on the table. I sank into a chair, burying my face in my hands. The door opened and Denise poked her head in. You okay? No, she stepped inside and sat beside me. That looked rough. They don't get it. They're never going to get it. Maybe not, Denise said softly. But that doesn't mean you were wrong. That evening, when I got home, I found my brother Trevor waiting in the lobby of my building. He stood when he saw me, coffee cup in hand, looking uneasy. How did you get in here? I asked, already knowing the answer. The building had a buzzer system, but people were often careless about holding doors. Someone let me in, he said. Look, I know you don't want to see us right now, but I really need to talk to you. I'm tired, Trevor. It's been a long day. Just 5 minutes, please. Against my better judgment, I let him follow me upstairs. When I unlocked my apartment door, I saw his eyes widen as he took it all in. Wow, he said quietly. This is really nice, Val. No one had called me Val since high school. I didn't invite him to sit. Say what you came to say. Trevor walked to the window, staring at the view that had caused all this chaos. I get why you're upset. I really do. Mom and Bethany came to see me after they left the hospital, and they told me what happened. I'm sure they gave you their version. They did, he said. But I also know them, and I know you. I wanted to hear your side. That surprised me. Trevor was never the one to analyze family dynamics. He usually just went along with whatever kept the peace. Why? I asked. He turned back toward me. Because I've been thinking about it, and you're right. We haven't treated you well. I haven't treated you well. I waited, unsure where this was headed. When I got engaged, he continued, you helped plan my bachelor party. You spent weeks organizing it, and it was perfect. But when you graduated from nursing school, I didn't even show up to your ceremony. I was golfing. I remember. And last year, when you texted me about finally paying off your loans, I just sent back a thumbs-up emoji. I didn't even call. No, you didn't. He sank into my new couch without asking, looking drained. The thing is, he said, I always assumed you'd be fine. You've always been the responsible one, the one with her life together. I figured you didn't need as much attention as Bethany or encouragement like I do. You just handled everything. So you took me for granted? Yeah, he admitted. I guess I did. It was the most honest thing anyone in my family had said to me in years. I didn't know how to respond. Why are you telling me this? I finally asked. Because Mom called me crying after what happened at the hospital, he said. She told me you accused her of not knowing anything about you. And when she tried to think of something, she couldn't. That scared her. It should, I said. It scared me too, Trevor continued. Because I realized I couldn't answer that question either. I don't really know you, Val. Not anymore. Maybe I never did. Tears stung my eyes, but I blinked them away. So what now? You apologize, I forgive everyone, and we go back to how things were? God, I hope not, Trevor said quietly. Because how things were wasn't good. Especially for you. I sat down across from him. Then what do you want? I want to understand, he said. Help me understand what the last 8 years have been like for you, what it took to get here. So I told him. I told him about the double shifts and the exhaustion. About working every Christmas to earn extra pay. About the tiny studio with the broken heater and the landlord who ignored my calls. About months of living on ramen and rice. About the spreadsheet I kept, tracking every penny, calculating how long it would take to save for a down payment. Trevor listened quietly. When I finished, he sat still for a long time. I had no idea, he said finally, because you never asked. You're right, he admitted. But you also never told us. You never said you were struggling or needed help. Would you have listened? He didn't answer, which said enough. I didn't want your help, I said. I wanted acknowledgement. I wanted someone to notice that I was working toward something, to be proud of me without me having to ask for it. I am proud of you, he said softly. Looking at this place, knowing what it took to get here, I'm really proud of you, Val. 8 years too late. I know. And I can't change that, but I can try to do better if you'll let me. I wanted to believe him. I wanted to think this conversation was real. But my family had disappointed me too many times to trust easily. Trevor, why did you really come here? I asked. Did Mom send you? He looked embarrassed. She asked me to talk to you, yeah, but not for the reasons you think. She's genuinely upset, Val. So is Dad. They're realizing they might actually lose you and it's scaring them. They should have thought of that sooner. You're right, he said. But people don't always face consequences until they're right in front of them. You blocking everyone, refusing to see us, it's making them realize how serious this is. Good. Is it? He asked, leaning forward. Because I'm not sure what your endgame is here. Are you cutting us off for good? Waiting for some grand gesture? What do you actually want to happen? It was a fair question, and I didn't have a good answer. I don't know, I admitted. I just know I'm tired. Tired of being the one who always bends, always forgives, always tries to understand while everyone else does whatever they want. Then don't bend, he said. Make us earn it. Make us prove we can do better. And if we can't, if this is just temporary guilt, then you'll know. You can decide with clarity. We sat in silence for a few minutes. Outside, the city lights flickered on as dusk settled over Portland. I'm not ready to see everyone yet, I said finally. I'm still too angry. That's fair, he said. But will you at least unblock my number? Just so I can check in? Not for them, for me, I thought about it. Maybe, but if you start acting as their messenger, you're getting blocked again. Deal. He stood to leave, pausing at the door. For what it's worth, this apartment is amazing. You should be proud of yourself, Val. I know I would be. After he left, I sat in my chair looking around my space. The conversation had stirred up feelings I'd been trying hard to ignore. Part of me wanted to believe things could change, that my family might actually start treating me differently. But another part, the one that had been hurt too often, knew better than to hope. My phone buzzed. I had unblocked Trevor and he'd sent a message. "Thanks for talking to me." I meant what I said. I didn't reply, but I didn't block him again. 2 weeks passed and I settled into a routine that no longer included my family. I went to work, came home, and enjoyed my apartment. I started Tuesday night yoga, joined a book club at the library, and went to happy hour with Denise and some of the nurses. I built a life that was entirely mine, and it felt good. Trevor texted occasionally, small, casual notes about his day or questions about mine. I answered sometimes and kept things light. Then, 3 weeks after the hospital confrontation, something happened that changed everything. I ran into my cousin Janine at the grocery store on a Saturday. I hadn't seen her since before I moved in, and I tried to avoid her, but she spotted me. "Valerie, wait." She hurried over, clearly urgent. "I'm so glad I ran into you. I've been wanting to talk, but you blocked everyone." She looked around as if checking for ears. "Can we go somewhere private? This won't be quick." Against my better judgment, I followed her to the coffee shop next door. We sat in a corner booth. After ordering, she turned to me. "I need you to understand something," she said. "I'm not saying this to cause drama or take sides. I'm telling you because it's the right thing and because I care about you." My skin prickled. "What is it?" She took a breath. "Your mom and Bethany have been obsessed with your apartment. Your mom told everyone at her book club about it, making it sound like you hit the lottery. But privately, she said something I think you deserve to know." "What did she say?" "She said they need to get back in your good graces so Bethany can be your real estate agent when you sell. It's prime property. She's already calculated her commission." My stomach dropped. "What? That's not even the worst part." Janine hesitated. "Your dad's been asking Trevor about your finances, how much you make, whether you had help buying the place, if you have a mortgage. Trevor initially said no, but your dad kept pushing. I think they're trying to see if you have money. Your mom even said if you can afford that apartment, you could help them out." She hinted they're having financial trouble. I felt numb. So they didn't actually want a repaired relationship. They wanted something from me. Janine added quietly, "Your mom's been telling people you're being selfish and cruel for refusing to see the family. She's painting herself as the victim, and a lot of people believe her because they don't know the whole story. I've been defending you when I can, but you know how convincing she is." We sat in silence. My coffee had gone cold. "Why tell me this?" I asked. "You've always been closer to my mom than me. I've watched how they treat you for years and felt bad for not saying anything. When you posted that photo of your apartment, I was genuinely happy for you. But seeing your family's reaction made me sick. They didn't care about your accomplishment. They cared about what it meant for them." "Thank you for telling me," I said. "I know it wasn't easy." "What will you do?" she asked. That was the question I'd been waiting for, proof that my family couldn't change. "I don't know yet," I said, "but I'm not going to let them use me." After Janine left, I sat for another hour processing everything. The betrayal hurt, but it also clarified something. My hope had been for a family I wanted, not the family I actually had. They saw me as a resource, my apartment as an opportunity. When I set boundaries, they looked for ways around them. I pulled out my phone and unblocked their numbers, not to reconcile, but to watch what they would do next. I wanted to see them reveal themselves completely, and I wanted consequences when they did. My phone buzzed almost immediately, messages from my mother, Bethany, and my father, relief that I'd unblocked them, requests to talk, dinner invitations. I didn't reply. Instead, I opened a new note and began listing every promise they'd broken, every achievement they'd dismissed, every time they'd chosen someone else over me, now including their plan for Bethany to profit from my sale and their hinted financial trouble. If they wanted to play games, I would play to win. I spent the next week preparing. If they wanted access to my life, my apartment, or money, they were going to have to earn it, and more importantly, show everyone who they really were. The first move was accepting their invitation to Sunday dinner at my parents' house. When I called, my mother nearly wept with relief. "Oh, Valerie, I'm so glad you're ready to talk. We've missed you so much." I kept my voice neutral. "I've been thinking about what you all said. Maybe I was too harsh. Family is important, and that's where the scene ends for now, poised between my decision to watch and hold them accountable and whatever performance they would put on next. Come to dinner on Sunday. Your father's making his famous ribs. It'll be just like old times. Just like old times. That was exactly what I was counting on. Sunday arrived, and I drove out to my parents' house in the suburbs. The familiar tree-lined streets, the perfectly trimmed lawn, the house that had never quite felt like home. I sat in the car for a moment, gathering myself before stepping out. When I walked in, everyone was already there. My parents, Bethany, and Trevor. They all turned to look at me, relief on their faces, mixed with something else. Calculation. My mother hugged me tightly, longer than necessary. I'm so glad you came. We've been so worried about you. Hi, Mom. My father stood up, giving me an awkward pat on the shoulder. Good to see you, kiddo. How have you been? Busy with work, I replied. Bethany stepped forward with a smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. I'm glad we can finally move past all that misunderstanding. Family's too important to let grudges linger. I noticed she didn't apologize. None of them did. They acted as though my anger had been an overreaction, something I'd now, thankfully, gotten over. We sat down to dinner, and for the first 30 minutes, they kept the talk light. Weather, local gossip, Trevor's new golf clubs. No one mentioned my apartment or the fact that I'd blocked them all for weeks. Then, as we began clearing the table, my mother made her move. Valerie, sweetheart, she began. Since you're settling into your new place, maybe we could come visit next weekend. I'd love to see what you've done with it. I'd love that, I said easily. Actually, I was thinking of hosting a proper housewarming party. Maybe invite some friends, a few colleagues from the hospital, and some neighbors. Her smile faltered slightly. Oh, well, that sounds lovely, but I was thinking more of a family thing, just us. Why not both? I suggested. A proper party would be fun. I could show everyone the place at once. Bethany chimed in quickly. That's a great idea. And you know, Val, I've been thinking, your building has fantastic resale potential. When you're ready to upgrade, I'd be happy to handle the listing for you. Family discount, of course. There it was, exactly what Janine had warned me about. Upgrade? I asked innocently. I just bought the place. Of course, she said smoothly. I just mean eventually. It's never too early to think about your investment strategy. That property's hot right now. I could get you top dollar when the time comes. I'll keep that in mind, I said evenly. My father cleared his throat. You know, Valerie, I've been curious. That apartment must have cost quite a bit. How'd you manage the down payment? I saved, I said simply, on a nurse's salary. That's impressive, really impressive. You must have a nice little nest egg built up. I could already see where this was headed. I do okay, I replied. Well, my father continued, your mother and I have been having some financial setbacks. Nothing major, but our investments haven't done as well as we'd hoped. We're getting older, and we need to start thinking seriously about retirement. We were wondering if you might be in a position to help out a little. Just temporarily, of course. And there it was. The real reason for the sudden reconciliation? How much are we talking about? I asked. My parents exchanged a look. Maybe $20,000 to start, my father said, just to get us back on stable footing. $20,000, more than a quarter of what I'd saved for my down payment. Money that represented years of sacrifice. That's a lot of money, I said quietly. We're family, my mother replied, reaching across the table to pat my hand. We've always been there for you, and now we need you to be there for us. Always been there for me. The lie was so blatant I almost laughed. Let me think about it, I said finally. It's a big decision. Of course, my mother said quickly. We understand. But we'd really appreciate an answer soon. Things are getting rather urgent. Trevor had been quiet most of dinner, but as I was leaving, he followed me out to my car. Val, he said, what are you doing? What do you mean? I asked. You're planning something? I can tell. I looked at him for a long moment. Do you know what they asked me in there? I heard, he said. And it's messed up. They shouldn't have asked you for money, especially not after everything that's happened. But you didn't say anything. He looked down. No, I didn't, I replied. That's what I thought. I got into my car and drove away, leaving him standing in the driveway. The following Saturday, I hosted my housewarming party. I invited everyone, my family, colleagues from the hospital, neighbors, and friends from yoga and book club. Even Janine and some extended family were there. Around 50 guests filled my apartment, spilling into the hallway. I had spent days preparing. Not just food and drinks, but something more. something my family didn't see coming. My parents and Bethany arrived early. Trevor came separately, still looking uneasy. They moved around my apartment with a sense of ownership, my mother commenting on the furniture, my father inspecting the view, and Bethany taking notes about the building's amenities on her phone. "This place is prime property," Bethany said loudly, making sure people heard. "Great structure, perfect location. I'm so proud of my sister for making such a smart investment." My sister? Suddenly that word returned now that there was something in it for her. As more guests arrived, I played the perfect hostess. I introduced my family to my colleagues, neighbors, everyone. "This is my mother who taught me hard work," I said, watching her smile tighten. "And my sister Bethany, a successful real estate agent. My father, he's always had high standards." By 7 p.m., when the room buzzed with conversation, I called for attention. I stood near the window, city lights glowing behind me, and raised my glass. "Thank you all for coming," I began. "This apartment means so much to me, and I wanted to share it with the people in my life." My mother beamed. Bethany nodded with approval. "I've been reflecting lately," I continued, "on how I got here, and I realized my story might resonate with some of you." Trevor stiffened. He knew what was coming. 8 years ago, I was living in a studio apartment with mold in the bathroom and a heater that barely worked. I worked double shifts at the hospital. Every weekend, every holiday, every bit of overtime I could get. Dinner was often instant noodles. My scrubs were mended more times than I can count. My car broke down constantly. The room grew quiet. My colleagues nodded, relating to the struggle. "I did all of this on my own," I said. "No family money, no special connections. Just determination." My mother's smile started to fade. She sensed where this was heading. "When I finally bought this place, I wanted to share it with my family. I invited them to a housewarming party." I paused. Every one of them said no, too busy. Other priorities. A few people glanced at my parents and siblings. But then I posted one photo online, just one picture of this view. And suddenly, everyone had time. Suddenly, family mattered again. "Valerie," my mother said sharply, "this isn't appropriate." "Why not?" I asked. "You wanted to be here." So let me tell the full story. I turned back to my guests. 2 weeks ago, my parents asked me for $20,000. They said they were having financial trouble and needed help. When I hesitated, they reminded me, family helps family, that they'd always been there for me. The room fell silent. But here's the truth. They weren't there when I graduated nursing school. They weren't there when I paid off my student loans. They weren't there for any of my milestones. They only show up when they need something. My father stood, face red. "That's enough. You're embarrassing yourself." "No, Dad," I said firmly. "I'm telling the truth. You and Mom don't see me as a daughter. You see me as a resource. And Bethany doesn't see me as a sister. She sees me as a future commission when I sell this place." Bethany's mouth dropped. "How dare you?" "I dare because it's true. Janine overheard you talking about it, how you've already calculated your cut for when I decide to upgrade." Gasps rippled through the crowd. Janine, standing at the back, nodded in confirmation. "You don't love me," I said, my voice wavering despite trying to stay composed. "You love what I can do for you. And I'm done pretending that's enough." My mother began to cry, angry tears, not sad ones. "How dare you humiliate us like this?" she hissed. "You ungrateful child." "Ungrateful?" I laughed bitterly. "For what, being raised? That's what parents are supposed to do. You don't get awards for doing the bare minimum. We paid for your education." My father shouted, "No, you didn't. I had scholarships and loans. You paid for Bethany's college and Trevor's car. I got a $50 gift card and a lecture on responsibility." The truth hung in the air, heavy and undeniable. My family stood exposed before 50 witnesses. My mother's face burned with anger and shame. Bethany looked like she wanted to vanish. My father couldn't meet anyone's eyes. Only Trevor stayed still, watching me with what almost looked like respect. "I think you should leave," I said quietly. "All of you." "Gladly," Bethany snapped, grabbing her purse and storming out. My parents followed, my mother pausing at the door just long enough to hiss, "You'll regret this." "No," I said calmly. "I really won't," Trevor lingered. "Val, go with them, Trevor," I said. "You made your choice by staying silent." He opened his mouth to speak, then closed it and walked out. After they left, the room was quiet for a moment. Then Denise came over and hugged me tightly. "That was the bravest thing I've ever seen," she whispered. One by one, people started approaching me, colleagues who had faced similar struggles, neighbors who understood family dysfunction, and others who knew what it felt like to be overlooked and undervalued. "My parents did the same thing to me," one of the nurses said. "Only cared when they needed money." "I cut off my sister 3 years ago," a neighbor admitted. "Best decision I ever made." The party eventually picked up again. But it became something better than I'd planned, not just a housewarming, but a celebration of boundaries, self-respect, and the courage to choose yourself when no one else will. Around midnight, when everyone had left except Denise, she helped me clean up. "So, what happens now?" she asked. "Now I live my life," I said. "Without them, they'll try to come back. People like that always do. Let them." I meant what I said. I'm done. My phone buzzed all night. Messages from extended family, some supportive, most angry or confused. My aunt texted, "How could you embarrass your parents like that?" I blocked her. Then came my mother's voicemail. "You are no longer part of this family. Don't ever contact us again." I saved it. A reminder for any moment I might doubt my decision. Bethany sent a long, angry text accusing me of ruining her reputation, calling me selfish and saying I'd die alone. I forwarded it to a few people from the party, letting her words speak for themselves. Only Trevor's message stood out. "I understand why you did it." "I'm sorry I wasn't strong enough to stand with you." I didn't respond. Maybe one day I would, but not yet. The pain was still too raw, and his silence had cut almost as deeply as my parents' betrayal. In the months that followed, I watched my family face the fallout from their actions. Word spread quickly through relatives and their social circle. My mother's friends at the country club learned about the party, the money demands, and Bethany's manipulative plan to profit from my apartment. Their reputation took a hit. Invitations stopped coming. My mother's book club dissolved after several members sided with me, refusing to associate with someone who treated her daughter so coldly. Bethany's real estate business suffered too. When clients heard about her behavior, they chose other agents. She tried spinning the story, painting me as vindictive, but too many people had witnessed the truth. Even my father's accounting firm lost 2 major clients who didn't want to work with someone whose family ethics were so questionable. They eventually sold their suburban home and moved into a small condo. I felt no sympathy. They had made their choices, and choices have consequences. A year later, I stood in my apartment, staring out at the same skyline that had started it all. The city lights shimmered against the night, and for the first time in years, I felt something real, peace. I had built this life on my own, without their approval, without their help, and that made it entirely mine. The isolation I once feared never came. Instead, I found a chosen family in my coworkers, my neighbors, my book club friends, people who showed up when they said they would, who celebrated my achievements without needing to be convinced they mattered, who valued me simply for who I was. I didn't regret exposing my family at that party. Some might call it cruel or petty. I call it necessary. They had spent 35 years treating me as invisible, as lesser, as someone who only existed to serve their needs. And when I finally drew the line, they revealed exactly who they were. The real revenge wasn't in the public humiliation. It was in choosing myself. In creating a life so complete, so fulfilling, that their absence became a blessing rather than a loss. I had spent years waiting for my family to see me, to value me, to love me the way I deserved, and in the end, I realized the only person who ever needed to see my worth was me.